Now I'll introduce you to the methods and approaches of English language teaching because they are closely interlinked and sometimes are considered to be synonymous to ELT in public perception. To a lay person or a beginner in the field of language education, ELT may be considered only about the methods of teaching English. That is why many people consider that the history of ELT is actually the history of different methods and approaches of teaching English. Before we move on and talk about different methods and their details, it's important to differentiate between a method, approach, and technique. An approach is a level at which various assumptions and beliefs about language and language learning are specified, whereas the level at which theory is put into practice, the decisions about skills and content to be taught, and the order in which these will be taught are made is called method. Method is more a practical form and level of language teaching. In the last comes technique. Technique talks about the procedures of classroom which facilitate a teacher to teach a language lesson. Kumaravadivelu, a renowned applied linguist, orders the methods of teaching English in three different forms. First, he talks about the methods which revolve around the learners. They are called language-centered methods. They are organized around linguistic forms, usually grammatical structure, and their major focus is on the accuracy of language learning. These methods include grammar translation and audiolingual methods. Next, he talks about learning-centered methods. In these methods, usually the focus is on the communicative and linguistic needs of the learners, and the communicative language teaching is the best example of such methods. In the last, he talks about learning-centered methods. These methods talk more about different tasks that define the classroom content, and for such methods, task-based learning is considered to be the best example. Now, I'll talk about some of the important methods which are used in ELT briefly. First, and the most popular one is grammar translation methods. This is used quite frequently in many EFL contexts. In grammar translation method, learning is ensured by the translation to and from the target language. And usually it's the grammar rules and vocabulary which is asked by the learners to cram them by heart. The structural approach envisages that language is a complex structure of grammatical rules which need to be learned one by one and in a set order. The direct method focuses on learning a target language, in this case English language, directly without focusing on the grammatical rules, and the more focus is laid on pronunciation. The idea behind audiolingual method is that language may be learned as we attain habits in our normal life. Therefore, students may be asked to rehearse things and practice things more and more, and they should drill language lessons extensively so that they may learn it according to their needs. The next method is total physical response method, which focuses on the aural comprehension. In this method, students are asked to reply to simple instructions in the target language, and therefore their proficiency in that language is assessed. Communicative language teaching is one of the most popular methods of language teaching in recent times. It focuses on the communicative needs of the learners in real life situations. How would they speak a certain communicative act in the target language? This is what is emphasized by a language teacher within a classroom if he or she is teaching through a communicative language teaching method. Task-based learning, which is considered to be a subpart of communicative language teaching, focuses on learning language through different tasks. It's usually the teacher who assigns different tasks to the students, and they perform those tasks within the timeline and the guidelines prescribed by the teacher. In the end, I'll talk about the natural method. This method believes in finding similarities between the target and the local language of the speakers or the learners. Usually, there is no correction of mistakes in this method, and more focus is laid on the learning of language directly. Thank you.